Hello and welcome to part two of the Amazon shopping spree. Don't start this part until you've got a very close amount to 1,000. You're going to lose some value on your assignment if you try to check out with any kind of remaining money. So just quickly, I did some imaginary items for the sake of this tutorial, and I got myself pretty close. But if I were doing this assignment for marks, and if I were you, I would try to get this to say exactly 1,000 and this to say 0 to get full credit. But let's say that this is as close as you could get. You've found some good deals. Also, make sure that at least half your items are on sale. It's okay if not everything's on sale, but you want at least a few items on sale to be able to prove that you're a good shopper and that you tried to get some deals, and also to answer some of the questions that are coming up. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make a graph, and we're going to learn how to do some of the more advanced formulas in Excel or in Google Sheets. Okay, so the first thing is graphing is brilliant on a computer. If you've ever done, for example, a pie chart by hand, you know that it takes a very long time to measure all the angles properly. Watch how long it actually takes a computer to do the same thing. So the first thing is we're going to have to select our items up here. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to select all of our items like that. Notice I have at least 10 items. You have to have a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 15. Now, so I want to have these selected. You can see how they're selected in blue. And I want to match that up with their total or their item total because I want to figure out with this graph how much money I spent per item. Which item cost me the most compared to other items. I'm going to use the pie chart to show that. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Control or Command on a Mac, and now I'm going to go ahead and select the matching values. Now remember, computers aren't intelligent, and if you don't get exactly the same matching values, your graph isn't going to work. So again, to review how I did that, I held down Control or Command, and then with the big arrow, not the crosshair, with the big arrow, I selected the matching values. Then you can let go of Control once you have the matching values. At this point, we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to say Chart. And you can see that it automatically just picked a chart type for me. And that's fine if that's the chart type that you want to use. I like the idea for this of using a pie chart though, because it really kind of shows you which items use the most of your budget. Here, for example, I can see that item 5 was almost half of my entire budget. And so that's what we're trying to do is pick a chart that shows off properly how you actually spent your money. Now, the other things that we're going to do is I want you to get into the chart title, giving it a better title than this because this is a very confusing title right now. So this could be something like how I spent my money at Amazon. And in this case, you're not going to actually have any axes to label, so that's kind of nice. You don't have, if you have other kinds of graphs, like an X and a Y axis for a bar chart, a column chart, anything like that, then you'd have to worry about your axis. But here on a pie chart, we don't have to worry about that. So really giving it a title, making sure it shows the percentages is really important, and making sure it's really clear. You might have to make your chart bigger or smaller, um, just to make sure that all your items actually show up on the chart. Okay, so I'm going to close the chart editor once you're happy with it. Okay, so now that we have a nice chart made like this, we're going to go ahead and click on the three little dots. One note is that you could actually download this as an image. Maybe that will come in handy if you ever need to use it somewhere else. In this case, though, all we're going to do is copy the chart, go to our next tab, which says Shopping Graph, our final tab of the assignment, and we're going to press Control V, or Command V on a Mac to paste the graph onto this page. We can move it around. We can actually just put it kind of like over top of the blue text down here, spread it out, make it nice and big. That's where I'm going to look for it when I mark it. And again, make sure it has a better title than this and that it clearly shows all of your items. Okay. The last part of this tutorial, I'm just going to take you through the questions that I'd like you to answer from up above, and then that's the end of this assignment. So you have to answer these 6 questions that you see up here. I'm going to walk you through how to do it. Number 1 says, explain using words the equation you created for cell F2 in the previous sheet. That means the previous tab, same thing as a sheet, I'd go back here and I would look for F2 and I would just click on that. That'll give you a reminder from up here where the formula is of what you were doing in that place. So it wants you to describe in words what was happening there. And for example, here it's D2 times E2. And if you think about what that actually is, it's multiplying the sale price by the quantity. So that's all I would do is for an answer here. Um, if you double click, that allows this to open up and you just kind of put your cursor beside. And if you can choose a text color, oh, we're over here, text color. If you can choose a text color other than black, it's going to make your answer stand out. So I'd like you to do that. And you would just say it's multiplying the sale price by the quantity. So I've given you the answer to number 1. Number 2, explain using words the equation you created in cell B20 of the previous tab, the grand total. So we're just going to click outside of that, save and close, go back. B20 is down here, the grand total. How would you explain in words, not mathematical equation, how would you say what you did there? Well, you added two things together, didn't you? Now all you have to do is think about what those two things were to get the grand total. Number 3 says explain why you chose your graph type. So I chose a pie chart, and you may have chosen something else. You can justify any way you'd like to what kind of graph type you chose, but just make sure that you just say something more than like because I wanted to, right? Make sure that it has some kind of reason. For example, a line graph would not have made much sense for this because it's not change over time. But yeah, the pie graph for me did make sense because I pictured the pie as the $1,000 that I had to spend. In number 4, in cells J2, J3, and J4 of the previous tab, write equations that calculate each of the mean, median, and mode for the items purchased before tax. Which was the highest value of the three? Which of the three would be most useful to know in real life if you were buying these products? Okay, so let's go back and look for the J column, which is actually after all of this. You'll see that there are a few extra things hiding here. The mean, the median, and the mode. Remember, the mean is the average, okay? So you're adding things together and then dividing by the number of items that you have. The median is the item that comes in the middle. How would you figure out that? The middle range. If you had 10 items, what would the middle range items be? And the mode is the one that appears the most frequently. I'm going to let you go ahead and try those without giving you the exact equations. But if you remember back here, we had an equation that said equal sign sum, and we used that to our advantage to come up with this equation. Well, there's a very good chance that there may be things like equal sign the median, for example, or equal sign the mode, and just selecting your data might automatically find the answer for you. So I want you to experiment. These are level 4 questions. If you need help with them, you can ask me for sure, but hopefully that gives you some help. All right, the next one down 5 in D18, D19, and D21. These are level 4 questions as well. See if you can find out how to write equations for these. D21 is worth the most. Your goal here is to figure out how good of a shopper you are. How much did you save on average? Did you get good sales? So I'm going to go back here to the blue D section, which is down here. And I'm going to give you some hints about how you might find these things. This one says, find a second way to sum column F. Well, here's column F. We already found one way, equal sign the sum of F2 to F17. I did hint at another longer, old-fashioned way, equal sign F2 plus F3, and so on. This one says, find a second way to calculate the grand total. Well, the grand total here, we added the subtotal and the tax. Is there a way you could go directly from the subtotal, multiply it by something, and then end up with the grand total? I'll give you a hint. It's not multiplying it by 0.13, it's multiplying it by something else, 0.13. See if you can figure that out. And the last one here, D21, calculate the average discount saved here. So I saved 20% on this item, and you obviously save different amounts on the other items. What was the average amount that you saved? Okay, so you're going to basically find out how good of a shopper you are here. So you need to kind of find the mean of these items, which you might have already found up here in J, but this time it's the mean discount percentage saved instead of the total. So if you found the average of all these percentages, you would know how good of a shopper you are. So give that a try. And finally, if Amazon changed their policies and decided to suddenly that shipping would now cost 15% of the average mean of your three most expensive items, write an equation in J20 of the previous tab that figures out the shipping cost for your items. What would your new total be? If you had the choice of paying no tax or no shipping, which is the better deal in this case? Why? Do you think everyone will have the same answer for this? So these are all some things that make you think a little bit. But again, J20 of the previous tab is where you're going to start by just figuring out what the shipping costs actually would be. Now remember, the shipping cost, it says, is now 15% of the average of your three most expensive items. So somewhere else, you've got to take your three most expensive items, which for me would be the 400, the 240, and I believe the 79.99. I'd have to take those, find the average of those, add them together, divide by 3, and then figure out what 15% of that is. Okay, that's what Amazon's going to charge me for shipping. Okay, so you'd have to write an equation for that. There's lots of empty cells that you can try to write this equation and figure out what that would be. If you don't understand every single thing here, that's okay. The more you complete, the higher your mark. You've learned a ton from this assignment. You've learned how to enter data, how to write formulas, what variables are, how to find tax, how to find subtotals, grand totals, how to make charts. So hopefully you found this as a worthwhile assignment to do. And please do let me know if you have any questions along the way.